Good. So, thank you for finding time for this interview, Serge. And I would love you to talk a little bit about your vision and your mission, because you are now since decades with your work globally around, and I think there must be a strong vision behind that.
Sure, the vision is to make the world a better place.
Wow, that's good.
I need a lot of help to do that. So
Yeah.
that's why I'm sharing and teaching.
Yes, and you have also this wonderful association, which is also internationally, I heard.
You mean Huna International?
Yes.
Yes, that's right. That's a group of people who have gotten together, who have taken training from me and decided to be part of this big event, big endeavor, rather.
I see. I see. Uh, do you have special projects, or do you like to talk a little bit about what this group does? Is that okay?
Oh, there's all kinds of things. It's basically healing, but we look at that in a lot of different ways. Anything which is helping people to empower people is considered healing. So we have people who write books, we have write articles, we have people who teach, we
Hmm.
have people who are in the medical field,
Hmm.
applying these ideas to the work that they do. We have counselors, what they call coaches today,
Yeah.
a wide range of activities for this purpose.
Wow. And I guess you also exchange your experiences and insights, right?
Oh, yes, right. The people, they get together themselves, but also every month, why I have a Zoom meeting with our staff, our worldwide staff, and we talk about a lot of things.
Isn't the internet a wonderful invention?
Oh, it is. It's really great.
Um, just talking about making the world a better place. Um, do you like to share some ideas about the current situation with the audience?
The current situation is what the current situation is. It
That's
really
right.
doesn't matter what the situation is. You do your best
Yeah.
to help empower people and make things better.
Yeah. Do you see any signs of, let's say, push from above for some transformation in what goes on around the world at the moment?
Actually, I don't.
Okay.
That's not my thing. We need to push from below, is my opinion.
Ah, yeah. That's what I love also about your work, that it's so practically down to earth.
Yes, it is that.
So, which projects are very important to you, but you did not really start them so far? Is there anything?
Nope, I'm doing everything I've chosen to do, which is a
Wow.
wide range of things,
Hmm.
but which includes, it's very important in any particular life to have time for not only relaxation but pleasure of different kinds. To
Yeah.
have fun is part
Yeah.
of life. You can't keep focusing on a project. It's like life is a wave.
Hmm.
And so in a wave, the wave goes up and here's the work and you're doing everything. And then you reach a particular peak and then you've got to relax and go down time in order to get the energy to go back up again.
Yeah. Yeah. So that sounds to me very Hawaiian with surfing the waves.
Yes.
Um, when um, when looking at your background, um, I noticed that this is really international. So you have some in-depth training in Hawaiian Huna, and also you got shamanic training in Africa and
Yes.
in Mongolia. I mean, these are so different places. What did this give you?
It gave me an awful lot more information, an awful lot more techniques and ways to
Yeah.
help people. That's what it gave me.
Wow, wonderful. And was there any problem for you to bring these very different cultural backgrounds together, or do they have something in common?
Well, my basic framework, regardless of where I got the information, my basic framework has been from the Hawaiian knowledge that I was privileged to get.
Yeah.
Okay? So everything fits into the simple framework of what we call the 7 principles.
I see, I see. So you're talking about the Kahlil family.
Yes.
Great. In which way did failures or apparent failures create important insights or wisdom for you or helped you to activate and understand part of your talents or potential better?
Well, the whole thing about failures, they call failures or they call mistakes, whatever you call them, the point is to learn from them.
Yeah.
So that's what I've done. I've learned from them. And if you sit and regret things that you've done, that doesn't get anywhere and just takes you further down the hole. So yeah,
That's
made a
right.
mistake. All right, correct it if you can, but do something different next time.
So don't waste your time with regretting failures.
No, that doesn't has serves no purpose whatsoever.
Okay. Um, what advice would you like to give people to get better through the times of the coronavirus crisis?
Well, the most important thing that isn't done enough, but the most important thing is to de-stress.
Ah,
Remember that wave? You can't have a wave unless there's a point of relaxation and rest.
yeah, yeah.
Okay? So de-stressing somehow, whether de-stressing physically, which means really relaxation, okay?
Okay.
So relax physically, relax emotionally, relax mentally. It sounds so easy when you say it. It's not easy.
Mm-hmm.
It does take attention
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes even effort. But this is the most important thing you can do in the face of things you have no control over.
Mm-hmm. So also here again, it's important to get back to that source, which is in a freedom, in a peace to be able to deal with the situation, right?
At least to visit often.
Mm-hmm.
We're so involved with daily things that we have to
Yeah.
take care of. And so you can't be in inner peace all the time and be effective in life. But you do want to visit that place as often as you can.
That seems to be a very good advice. In the last 3 years, approximately, which new beliefs or habits have, in your opinion, most improved the quality of your life?
Well, that's a tough one. So there is a habit that I've developed fairly recently.
Mm-hmm.
And what I do every morning is I have a massager. Now, there's different ways to do this. I use a massager. And so I massage a series of acupressure points
Ah.
that start from my head and go all the way down to my feet.
Mm-hmm.
And it takes me about 5 minutes or so to do the whole thing.
Wow.
And I find it's a lot better than just holding your hand on a point. So it really stimulates them, and it has helped to keep me much more active and physically able and mentally able to do the things I want.
Wow, just 5 minutes.
Well, that's all it takes if I'm using a massager, yes.
Yeah, well, that's incredible. You know, when I do acupuncture, I take about 20 minutes minimum, and I'm not that
Understandable,
far.
understandable, right? So this is something I tried out
Hmm.
to see how it worked, and for
Yeah,
me, it works very well.
great. Thank you for this advice. Which are the 4 books or so which have most influenced your life?
I can't answer that.
You don't
I've
know.
read hundreds of books.
Yeah, I guess
And
so.
I get something from every book I read, whether it's fiction or nonfiction or history or speculation or whatever it might be. And
Mhm.
so I have read so many books, and there's no way I can say that there were 4 that stand out.
Mhm. Okay. Is there a, let's say, a certain area of topics which books cover, which at present is very interesting for you?
Again, I have such a wide range of interests at the current time.
Yeah.
Um, and this doesn't count one of the most wonderful inventions of all, which is the ability to go online and find out information instantly.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that'd been such a pleasure for my writing.
Yeah.
But the kinds of things I might read in a, let's say in a given week, might be anthropology,
Hmm.
might be esoteric knowledge of some kind,
Hmm.
might be history, might be fantasy. I
Yeah.
like fantasy a lot.
Me too.
And because you get so many more ideas from that.
Oh, yeah.
So I have this wide range that at any given time, this is what I'm reading. I don't
Great.
have one thing that I'll do all the time.
Okay. Is there a fantasy novel at the moment which you like to read?
At the moment, I just finished, for me, a fantasy novel includes television series. So I just finished the seventh season of Star Trek Voyager.
Wow. Yeah.
And so creative, so many ideas, so many inspirations I got from that.
Yeah.
So that was so now I'm embarking to show you how different things are. I'm watching an old movie
Hmm.
that I watched when I was a kid by Abbott and Costello called Africa Screams.
Mm.
It's, I think, the best of their very bad movies.
Abbott and Costello are quite a team.
Yes.
Yeah. I had much pleasure in reading your novels. They are entertaining, but at the same time, very, very deep, spiritually educating. Are you planning to write more?
Yes. Oh, yes. I have at least one in mind, but certainly there could be more than that. But
I
I'm
see.
still working on putting it together.
I see. So maybe another one of this series about this elderly teacher and the young guy who they
Keoki.
travel to.
Yes. Now, what's interesting is that I have been planning a novel, and then a friend of mine just yesterday said, "Well, why don't you make Keoki the main character of that?" And it
Mhm.
had never occurred to me. This is a pretty far out novel. But then I realized some of the things in the other novels were pretty far out too. So now I'm considering Keoki as the main character for the new novel.
That will be fascinating. I'm looking much forward to that.
Hmm.
You see, I guess there are some authors around who write fantasy at present times who do good research, but there are very few where you see that they have practical experience and insight.
Hmm.
And you are definitely one of them.
Well, I write about what I know.
I see. Which are the three also people or their biographies who have much influenced you?
Three is too limiting, but I'm going to cut it down. Okay. First of
Mhm.
all, my father,
Okay.
who started my shamanic training. And not only the shamanic training, but almost like a part of that was we lived on a farm.
Mhm.
We had traveled for many years, but for a number of years, we lived and worked on a farm. So that helped me so much when I went to Africa to work with the native farmers.
Mhm.
And I could understand them and talk their language in that sense.
Mhm.
So my father definitely. My Hawaiian aunt and uncle from the Kahili family,
Mhm.
okay, who continued in many ways the shamanic training and the practical life training.
Mhm.
Mbala, my African mentor.
Mhm.
And I have to add one more, and that's my wife, who taught me how to love.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's what women can do. Mm. Um, you already told us about what Huna gave you, the seven principles which helped you to understand other shamanic approaches. Did the African and the Mongolian shamanic education also give you some, let's say, some core things which are very important for you?
Well, definitely, it was my African mentor who taught me the art of soul retrieval, as it's called.
Ah,
Okay.
mhm.
And so, yes, that was a major thing. And also both he and my Hawaiian auntie taught me about working with energy.
Yeah.
But he taught me how to locate energy spots,
Mm-hmm.
like in the earth,
Mm-hmm.
okay? And how to the art of what we call today grokking.
Yeah.
The word comes from Robert Heinlein, but the concept is to do your best to match the pattern of something else so that you
Yeah.
can either influence it or learn from it. And so he also taught me that kind of thing.
Okay. And have there been some special things additionally which you got from Mongolia?
From Mongolia, what I got was insight into a very different way of, in many respects, of doing shamanism.
Mm-hmm.
But what I say that I gathered was the ability to connect with the spirit of objects.
Ah,
That's very big among the Mongolians.
yeah.
And one of the Mongolian shamans, a woman, I remember one night when we were having a party at her place, she showed me a cabinet that she had, a glass cabinet, that was full of objects
Mm-hmm.
and of all different kinds. And each one of them was it for her, from her point of view, held a spirit friend. Okay.
Oh.
And so she could use them to help her in her healing work and just have conversations with them. Now, I had done some of that, but not to that extent. So that was very impressive, and I followed through on that kind of concept. My office now is just full of objects.
I see.
Each one of them a living spirit.
Wow. When reading your novel, which partially plays in Mongolia, there was something interesting about alcohol and holding your sender.
Ah, yes. I learned this from the Mongolians. Boy, do they drink.
Yeah, I guess so.
In one situation, I just want to share. So we went to a big party. And first thing they do at the party, they will take a bottle of vodka. That's their primary alcohol. So they'll take a bottle of vodka and make a ceremony of opening the opening and then cutting the little piece of metal ring to free the spirit.
Hmm.
So then they will pour that into a little cup. And this is what
Mm-hmm.
they did. One person did this for the whole group and walked to the window and threw it outside as a gift to the other spirits.
Mm-hmm.
That was great. So as the dinner continued, what they also do is they toast all constantly. So
Mm-hmm.
you're always drinking usually out of these little brass cups while you're drinking a shot or more of alcohol. And so this continued, and I was really feeling like I was getting an awful lot, too much. And finally, I looked, and the table was empty of bottles. And I thought, oh, good. And then half the guys at the table reached under the table and brought out another bottle.
Oh no.
So I learned how to hold my alcohol among the Mongolians, yes.
So that has been tough love shamanic training, I guess. Uh, Talking about alcohol and shamans, uh, what is your opinion on using drugs like ayahuasca and such for doing shamanic work, or what they say is shamanic work?
Well, the main thing is it's unnecessary.
Yeah.
My African mentor didn't use them. The Mongolians did not use them.
Mm-hmm.
In Hawaii, they didn't use them for
Mm-hmm.
that purpose. And so in the places that do, I would say that you have to be really careful because uh, without any training, why it's very easy to get out of control.
Yeah.
And all you end up is a dreamlike experience that has no benefit.
Mm-hmm.
Or something that you've taken too much of or under the wrong conditions and makes you ill rather than helps you.
Yeah.
So I have experimented with some of those.
Mm-hmm.
And my opinion is that, leave that out of the shamanic work. It's not necessary.
That's, in my understanding, a very good advice. I've seen several people in my practice who had these experiences and who had a very weakened third chakra and were very degrounded.
Yes.
Um, what motivated you to write the novels the way you did, like entertaining plus education, like edutainment?
The, the desire to teach and entertain.
Hmm.
That's what motivated me.
So
Now
that's what you do in your classes.
now see, I learned to read from my father. It's another thing I have to thank my father for.
Yeah.
I learned to read by the time I was 3.
Wow.
And so he would go on trips and bring back books for me when I was
Hmm.
4 or 5. Okay.
Hmm.
So, um, sorry about this little ring. I can't do anything about it.
Don't worry.
But I'm going to wait. Okay. My wife picked it up. So uh, it was a lot of autobiography, a lot of history, a lot of fantasy.
Hmm.
When I was a child, I read, oh man, I would read comic books by the dozens.
Hmm.
Uh, and that whole world helped me develop things that became important to the shamanic work. That
Hmm.
ability to create things in your mind that allow you to learn things and do things.
Yeah.
And it came from the tremendous amount of fiction that I read.
Hmm.
And of course, I've read a tremendous amount of other things as well, but the fiction part was extremely useful throughout my life.
I see. That's an interesting background. I love your novel about Atlantis, and
Ah,
especially that it's let's say critical point of view, because many people just say Atlantis,
that's right.
but you did it in a much more clever way, I guess. May I ask what made you get to that approach to see this in a more critical way?
Well, there's something, I have to call it magical,
Hmm.
about writing fiction. Uh, in my experience, and I know in the experience of many others,
Hmm.
the when you begin to write, you might lay out your plot, lay out information about the characters, put your chapters of what's going to happen when, and then, in spite of all of that, the novel happens.
Yeah.
While you're writing, things come in. So when I was writing Dangerous Journeys, as an example,
Yeah.
that novel, why at one point I'm writing away, and then suddenly an entire character pops into my mind
Hmm.
that I didn't know anything about, had never done any research for. He had a complete background and insisted on being in that chapter. That's the only way I can put it.
Yeah.
So he did. I actually put him in 2 chapters. And
Hmm.
then that happened a second time in that book with a woman that I hadn't planned for. She came in and she had this entire background. She was Swiss. She was brought up in Japan. I mean, I didn't do any research for that, and it was
Hmm.
just
Hmm.
there. Okay.
Hmm.
So this is part of the magic of it. You are tapping into uh, a different realm, or more than one realm, where you can access information that fits what your focus is.
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty interesting. Um, I've I've seen that you wrote a book about relationships
Yes.
with a very broad approach, which I find fascinating. And from your novels, I've seen that you might have some deep insights into, let's say, tantric relationships. Are you planning a book about, let's say, spiritual sensuality?
Not planning it, might end up in a part of the novel, but and already has actually,
Yeah,
but not planning that as a book right now.
I see. Would be fascinating, I think.
Interesting thought.
Yeah. Um, if you would have the opportunity to promote an important idea in the internet worldwide so that many, many millions of people could get aware of that, what would that idea be?
Well, it's one thing to say something that people can be aware of, and another for people to do anything about it. But as one important idea, especially in light of the situation we're in, and I would have done the same thing if we were in situations similar in the past. Don't be afraid of anything.
Yeah.
That's it.
Mm-hmm.
It's the fear that is going to bring us down,
Mm-hmm.
that increases the conflict inside and outside.
Mm-hmm.
So the more you can learn not to be afraid of anything, take action, recognize danger or problems as they exist, and set yourself to do something about it from your
Mm-hmm.
point of view as best you can.
Mm-hmm.
But don't be afraid.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Do you understand fear as a kind of block against the flow of love and a fog which makes the mind
I don't
unable
look
to
at it
think?
that way. I
No?
look at it from a Hawaiian point of view, which
Mm-hmm.
the word for fear is ka'u, and which has other meanings. But
Mm-hmm.
um, when it means fear, it means like pulling back or stepping back.
Ah,
So fear is avoiding something.
okay.
And so fear in the body is when the body starts to shut down or pull back or have less ability to move. All of those are fear symptoms,
Yeah.
paralysis, and all those kinds of things.
Yeah.
So this is how I think of it, not as a block,
Mm-hmm.
but as a behavior.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Would you call fear a kind of behavior habit, behavior
Oh,
routine?
it can be a habit with some people, sure, of
Yeah.
course. And that leads to a lot of complications in their lives.
Oh, yeah.
See, for instance, I give an example from myself. When I was
Mm-hmm.
a child, oh, let's see, about in my 7, 8, 9, even into 10, I guess, about that age,
Mm-hmm.
why I had bronchial asthma.
Mm-hmm.
And it took me many years, I got over it, but it took me many years to recognize that it was based on the sense that I was being criticized
Mm-hmm.
by my parents. And so this area of the body, the heart, the chest, that kind of an area, is where we mostly, especially in modern world, where we mostly express those kinds of feelings. So it was pulling back in. There was a combination because bronchial asthma involves swelling as well as a decrease in function.
Mm-hmm.
And it was because I was angry and afraid.
Yeah.
Now, the thing was, my parents weren't really criticizing me.
Mm-hmm.
It's the way I interpreted it.
Ah, okay.
And that's what's really important.
Mm-hmm.
They were always telling me, no matter what I did, that I could do better,
Which is right.
which was good, except that I interpreted it as nothing I do is good enough.
Ah, I see.
See?
Yeah.
So that's something that I had to get over with. And so that's something that other people can't really control how you interpret things.
Yeah. Yeah. Sure.
But the more you can personally recognize you are creating your problems, not other people,
Mm-hmm.
then you can start to take steps to
Mm-hmm.
change what you're doing and thinking and feeling.
Wise words. Um, you have a background in psychology and I guess also much background in NLP, right?
No, NLP just happened to coincide with many of the things that I was taught.
Ah.
I read the books on NLP, but I read them recognizing that there were many similar things.
Mm-hmm.
So I wouldn't say I learned from it, but they had a lot of good techniques, I'll say that.
Yeah, yeah.
So from the point of view of techniques, I found it useful, but it was simply confirming many of the things that I knew. And the difference was that NLP only took it to a certain level.
Yeah.
And the knowledge that we call Huna takes it beyond the physical.
Of course, there is a limit to NLP, a big, big limit. Yeah. So is there some truth in it that you expanded NLP into the spiritual area?
No,
No?
no. I was never a practitioner of it. I didn't do that. What I
No,
did was
yeah.
what I had learned to do, which was simply already expanded beyond the typical NLP.
I see. In which way did failures help you to understand and love other people more?
Well, I don't think they did that for me.
Mm-hmm.
If we're talking about my failures, they helped me understand myself more, which of course you could say allowed me to love other people more.
Mm-hmm.
But I can't say that the failure itself had that direct effect.
Mm-hmm.
For me, they were learning experiences.
Yeah. What advice would you give a young person who wants to start a working life and get the right education or preparation for this? Of course, not some specific, but a general thing which you could say will help them whatever they do.
Oh,
Is there
okay.
something?
I can give 3 things. That'll be extremely useful.
Yeah.
Okay. Bless the present, which
Mm-hmm.
means appreciate the good in your life right now around you immediately.
Yeah. Yeah.
Consciously acknowledge it as good. It's not saying thing, oh yeah, this is nice. No, consciously acknowledge it as good.
Mm-hmm.
This helps to bring you into the present moment where you can think more clearly and act more effectively.
Mm-hmm.
That's first part. The second part is trust yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You're always going to do the best you can. It may not turn out the way you want, but you're going to do the best you can in any situation. So no regrets. Trust yourself that you'll always do the best you can. And let that inspire you to learn how to do better. Okay? And then the final thing is to expect the best. Now, when you expect the best, you're open to opportunities.
Right, yeah.
We can't control the world around us, but we can certainly influence us. And if we know how to do it, we can influence the world. But if you expect the worst, that's what you're going to see. That's what you're going to look for. That's what you're going to experience. And you'll miss all this wonderful stuff that's going right by you.
Oh, yeah.
So a practice of expecting the best and recognizing that, well, this isn't what I wanted, but I'll do the best I can with it. Or use it in some way to help get me beyond it. But expecting the best gives you opportunities.
Yeah, I guess that is a really powerful tool. Did I understand it right that point number 1 is not what people understand as positive thinking?
No, not at all. You call it positive appreciation.
Ah, great.
See,
That's
when
a new term for
you
me.
look around and recognize, I look at this computer right now. What a fantastic thing. What
Yes,
a
it is.
tool. Wow, the things I can do with it. It's just amazing. Thank you, computer. Okay. Now, I know a lot of people are not into thinking of everything as being alive, aware, and responsive, but that's one of the ways we do it. Even if you don't recognize that the room you're in is good, it's protecting you from the weather. There are There can be some things in it that are very useful, some even beautiful. Acknowledge them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
This really does something to help you get centered.
Mm-hmm. Do you remember when you started to understand objects as living beings or animated?
Wow, that's a very good question.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to think back on, I'd have to say it was during my training with my Hawaiian uncle,
Okay.
because that's the way he looked at life. And it's
Ah.
very traditional. A lot of indigenous people around the world see everything as alive.
Mm-hmm.
He went further than a lot of the things that I'd read about. And when he said everything, he meant everything is alive, aware, and responsive, and therefore is a spirit. It's not that it has a spirit, it's not a container, but
Mm-hmm.
it is a spirit.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'd have to say it was from my time with him, which happened. I guess some of these things happened with my mentor in Africa,
Mm-hmm.
but it happened more deeply with my uncle after I came back.
Interesting thought. So that would mean that your uncle wouldn't say the body is a temple of your soul. Your
No,
uncle might say the body is a soul, right?
no.
No,
It's an expression.
it's an expression. Ah,
Yes. Now remember, your body.
yeah.
This is kind of useful to remember sometimes. Your body's
Mhm.
made up of billions of cells, each of which is alive, aware,
Yeah,
and responsive. And because of you, they've decided to get together and cooperate and form this body of yours.
that's very
Because
nice of them.
as soon as you, as the how can I put it, overall spirit of the
Mhm.
form, you're still spirit, but you leave the body. It breaks down into its individual parts.
Mhm.
So we have, in a sense, being here as spirit, collected all these friends
Mhm.
to be with us. And they're friends even when they don't work right, because then they're just telling us, you got to do something different.
Yeah. So that means physical ailments give you advice or an opportunity to get wiser?
Oh my goodness, yes.
Hmm.
What's like I said with the bronchial asthma,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I learned from that.
Yeah,
And
I
I've had
see.
other ailments throughout my life and things that have happened, and they've all, I've used them all to teach me things.
Yeah. I think that is a good way to get healthy again faster also.
Oh, sure.
Hmm. Um, when um, when talking about dealing with physical ailments, at present, many people I hear from they fear death, that they will die because of COVID-19 or vaccination or whatsoever. Would you like to give us some of your wisdom regarding fear of death?
Well, it's going to happen.
That's right. Sure.
That's right. That's part of it. Might sound strange, but it's part of living.
Mhm.
And everything that we see around us is going to disappear for us, but we don't know what's coming next.
Mhm.
A lot of people claim to have gone what they call over, and there isn't any over. But anyway, they claim to have gone over and come back, and so they tell you everything about what they experienced. I do that every night.
Right.
I don't need to die to do that. Okay. But I'm going to die, and everybody is, and this computer is going to die, and things are going to finish being what they are, or
Mhm.
modify in some way, and be
Mhm.
something else.
Mhm.
So, what there's an awful lot of thing, of course, to fear. It's one thing to fear death. It's another thing. It's slightly different to fear dying before you think you should or before you want to.
Yeah.
Okay? That's really
Mhm.
tough.
Yeah.
And again, it's one of the things we have a certain degree of control over.
Mhm.
And we're going to die, as most people do, of excess tension.
Ah.
Now, we're not going to live forever, but we can live for an awful long time. But it's the
Mhm.
tension that accumulates
Mhm.
that diminishes the effectiveness and health of the body.
That's interesting.
And so that's why I talked about earlier about, relax
Mm-hmm.
as much as you can. Yeah, we're going to die, but there's nothing says that we have to die from a sickness.
Mm-hmm.
That comes about, the sickness isn't killing us.
Mm-hmm.
We're killing ourselves sooner than we need to. But this is not an easy thing to deal with at all, because so many different kinds of factors come in, the way we think and act and believe and expect. But these are all going to influence our health and how long we're here.
Mm-hmm. Do you think there is some basic underlying motivation why people get tense?
I think it's a natural reaction of stress. But see, here's the thing. I'll do a little demonstration. Okay.
Please.
I have people sometimes in class put their hands like this.
Mm-hmm.
And I tell them to push with their right hand.
Mm-hmm.
And most people stay like this. Now, I don't push. I'm just telling them to push. Because if they really pushed with their right hand, it would look like this.
Sure.
What's happening is they're pushing back. This is stress from the outside world, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
This is your reaction to that stress.
Mm-hmm.
The more you push back, the more tension you create in your body.
Yeah.
The more things you don't like, the more things you refuse, the more things you criticize. That's the internal stress pushing back against something that's happening beyond your body.
It sounds very much like the Aikido and Tai Chi Chuan philosophy.
Yes, right. There's a great similarity.
Yeah. Thank you. What is the best investment, not only understood money-wise, in your life? Can
My
you
life,
identify something?
very simple, of course. My wife.
Your wife. Well,
Absolutely.
that's, yeah, great.
No question about it.
Would you like to tell a little bit about why?
Why? Well, she's the one who taught me to love.
Yeah, that's the most important thing.
That's the most important thing.
Yeah, I see.
I mean, I could go on and on and on just about her, but I'm blessed. Now, we are human beings.
Mm-hmm.
There are times when we don't agree, times when it sounds like, at least from my point of view, I'm a little more emotional, but sounds like I'm angry at her, but it lasts maybe 5 seconds. I express my feelings and then they're gone. It's too many people try to keep it up or prove themselves right or conquer or things like that. Waste of time. Right?
Definitely.
So somebody listening to us can hear us shout sometimes, but it's over and done with. It's mainly me shouting. She doesn't shout. But it gets the situation over and then it's peace again instantly. Yes.
Given that you live on Big Island on Hawaii, as I understood, do you still go surfing?
No, not anymore. Okay.
But you did.
I used to do body surfing when we lived on Kauai, but no, that's behind me.
Okay, but you did.
Oh yes, right.
Good. I just think living on Hawaii, it's so tempting, to do some surfing.
Oh, it is. And if I had the opportunity, I mean, we've done kayaking, okay? And we've done other kinds of things on the water. But surfing is a little rough for me nowadays.
Well, of course, it's you
Well, I
need
don't
to have
mean
some
just
strength.
the other external. We have our neighbors, a lot younger people who take their children surfing every weekend.
what do you do when you feel overwhelmed by stress, frustration, or bad news or bad things happening? Is there something which you do as a routine to calm down?
Yes, right. The best way to calm down is to come back into the present moment.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
The things that mostly get us off balance are memories and expectations. And most of the time, for anybody's life, most of the present moment is pretty peaceful.
mm-hmm,
There can be instances of problems,
mm-hmm,
and sometimes these, depending on where you live and what the situation is, it can last for days.
mm-hmm.
But there's always goodness around you.
Yes.
And when we forget that and don't pay attention to that anymore, we get lost in, like I said, regret or fear or anger. Anger, you know, these are always about things that you can't do anything about.
Mm-hmm.
And they are very seldom happening in the present moment.
Right.
Okay. There was an actress, I remember Ingrid Bergman. She
Yeah.
made a statement once that said, the secret to happiness is a bad memory.
Well, yeah, that's wise. You just let it go. Is is there a ritual for you which you do for ending the day to calm down, to release stress, to get into inner peace?
Yes,
Mhm.
it's called movement,
Movement.
movement, physical movement,
Hmm.
which could be walking, or I have a trampoline that I use as well,
Hmm. Hmm.
doing yard work, something physical, but movement
Hmm.
and emotional movement.
Hmm.
Okay, uh, how can I put it? Practicing changing how I feel about things and my
Oh,
emotional attitude.
that
Moving
means
from moving from excitement to peace.
ah.
Okay, but getting some movement in the
Hmm.
thing, and also mental movement, which I do by my intense interest in many things.
Hmm.
So movement is what I do.
Hmm. Okay.
Now that can be done sometimes just before I go to bed, right
Yeah.
after I wake up. For instance, when I talked about the massage,
Yeah.
that's a movement exercise physically. I'm physically vibrating my body all over.
Hmm. Hmm.
And then it might sound very simple, but I look at the news and make comments and suggestions to
Yeah.
the newscaster.
Do you have favorite news channels?
Yes, I do actually now. When we're talking about news channels, I have three that we watch on a
Hmm.
regular basis. One is local, Hawaiian,
Hmm.
Hawaii News Now. Second one is CBS. They have
Hmm.
sometimes very good beginnings about things, but for insight and analysis, I like CNN.
Yeah. 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 I watch this too a lot. They are good. Yeah. Um, I'd like to ask you one thing, which is really uh, a topic I have to deal with since many years. A lot of people understand shamanism, energy work, as something to control your life.
Yeah, right.
I
That's what
don't
it's
see it that way. How do you
no,
see it?
it isn't. Of course not. We can't control. We can't
Right.
control anything.
Hmm.
There are too many factors involved, too many other living essences involved
Hmm.
that have their own ideas and things. We
Hmm.
can influence,
Yeah.
and there's where it is. But we can only influence something that's willing to move in the direction we want.
Yeah.
So, for instance, this is how we work with hurricanes.
Hmm.
We've been very successful in moving most hurricanes away from the islands.
Hmm.
Not always, because some hurricanes have a determination. Okay.
Hmm.
But the way to do that, the way I use it, is I will make deep contact with the spirit of the hurricane
Hmm.
and find out which different directions it might be willing to move in.
Okay.
And so when I find one that's away from, especially human communities,
Hmm.
okay, because of the infrastructure that human beings have set up, they take sometimes the most damage.
Hmm.
But they're the ones whose fear and anger mostly attracts the hurricane.
Oh, yeah.
But so I'll find out what's a possible difference of direction, and then I will. It's very hard to describe. I will lean my energy and intention in that direction,
Hmm.
persuading the hurricane to take that path rather than this path. And working with other people who are helping me and doing the same kind of thing, we've been over the years very, very successful. We've only there was one hurricane, one of the big ones in '92, that was slammed into Kauai dead on. Well, there were a lot of issues going on in Kauai, issues in nature and issues among people a lot. But what was interesting was that a colleague of mine and I, the hurricane was going below the islands. Here's Kauai up here. Hurricane was going way down here until it got just below Kauai. And then, according to the map, it went a 90-degree angle straight toward the island, and the hurricane was exactly as big as the island.
Wow.
So the whole thing was devastating. However, it didn't happen until my colleague and I were on the mainland. And we didn't hear about it until just before it hit. My wife was still, that was on Kauai. My wife was still on Kauai. And so we didn't have any idea. She didn't have any idea until 4 hours before it hit. On the day before, I was staying with a friend in Los Angeles, and they were gone, and I was wandering through the house. I went in their library, and I have this technique I use to let my subconscious pick a book. Okay. And so I went along the wall and spontaneously reached out and picked out a book. It was all about hurricanes. That was the day before we knew anything was going to happen.
What a treat. Yeah. Great. So do I understand you right, that it's very important for you to get an idea of the greater picture before doing some energy work?
It's always more useful, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Do you use oracle work for this too?
You can. Oracle work is very interesting because you can use it to get a sense of the existing patterns that might be forming into something. But when you really understand oracle work, it's not just oracle, it's a way of influencing that event by changing something now.
Okay.
You can change the pattern now to influence the outcome. The future isn't out there. The future's not fixed.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, of course. Yeah. So in your understanding, an oracle is also an active tool.
Exactly.
Great. I remember you wrote this in the Urban Shaman. You had a very simple oracle, I think was 3 or 4 crystals, and you told your inner child if it didn't work out like you thought it should, to place it different, right?
That's exactly right. Yes.
Ah, yeah. Now it comes to my mind. I've really
You can
forgot
even
that.
do that. You can even do that with tarot cards.
Really?
Sure. You lay out the cards and say, okay, here's the pattern. I don't like that one. Take a different card, put it in that place with emotion to give it intensity, to change the pattern.
That reminds me of your latest book about this tools for dreaming and doing energy work.
Yes, right. In fact, I have a copy right here.
Yes, please show it to us. Yeah,
Dreaming techniques.
dreaming techniques.
Right.
So would you call this what you taught us about using the oracle and active way also a dreaming technique, or does
Oh,
dreaming
yes.
technique go beyond?
Oh, this is very, very useful thing.
Mm-hmm.
The main thing I'd say would be to recognize that once you have a dream, it's a memory.
Ah,
See, the dream doesn't exist anymore.
right.
So the dream isn't influencing you anymore. The memory is.
Mm-hmm.
So change the memory. There's nothing
Mm-hmm.
sacred about a memory.
Right.
Most of them are different from what really happened anyway.
So true.
So if you have a nightmare, this is the most incredible thing. It's so simple, but it's an important part of the book. If you have a nightmare, recall the nightmare. When you're awake, you don't have to go to sleep again.
Mm-hmm.
But you're not working with the nightmare anymore.
Mm-hmm.
You're working with the memory of the nightmare.
I
And
see.
you can work with that while you're awake.
Mm-hmm.
So you bring it back to mind and you change the story in some way
Mm-hmm.
so that it has a good outcome.
Okay. So do you do this also with, let's say, childhood memories which are unpleasant?
Oh, sure.
Ah,
Oh, it's incredibly healing.
yeah. Is this like hypnotherapy, like Erickson's approach?
Um, there are similarities, yes.
Mm-hmm. Is there also an approach to this in ancient Huna, or did you develop that?
No, it comes out of the idea that now is the moment of power.
Ah, yes, that makes lots
And
of
in the
sense.
Hawaiian language, Hawaiian doesn't have a past tense.
What? Really?
That's right. It doesn't have a future tense.
So it's like Chinese language.
Similar in that sense. And similar in the fact that it does not have the verb to be.
Wow.
So when you're talking about the past, there's a marker that can indicate that something is over and done with.
Yeah.
And it's another marker that indicates something hasn't happened yet.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And there are markers that say something happened and it's still going on, or something that's going on now will probably continue.
Mm-hmm.
But in terms of a tense, like we think of it in most Indo-European languages, where we think of everything as a noun and therefore it's a thing,
Mm-hmm.
people are obsessed with the past as a thing, and it
Yeah.
doesn't exist.
Okay.
So if I were to say something in Hawaiian and translate it literally into English,
Mm-hmm.
and I would say, day before yesterday, I crossed over the mountains and went to Kona. Now in English, there's a sense that that happened and it still is affecting me.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. In Hawaiian, I would have to say literally,
Mm-hmm.
my going over to Kona the day before yesterday is over.
Ah, closing the Gestalt.
Yeah, right. Doesn't happen, doesn't exist anymore. So the Hawaiians traditionally did not celebrate anniversaries of anything.
Mm-hmm.
They did not celebrate birthdays except for the first birthday of the eldest child,
Mm-hmm.
because the eldest child had to retain the family history. No other birthdays were celebrated. They didn't have religious wars or wars based on things that happened in the past.
Oh, lucky
They didn't
people.
keep a calendar. You know, there are a lot of interesting aspects to that that can be applied to our way of thinking today. We don't have to know Hawaiian, but they can be applied to our thinking today that now is the moment of power.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Here's where we live, here's where we change things.
Mm-hmm. It seems to me that Hawaiian language is a language which can explain life in a
Well,
way.
it is a viewpoint.
Okay.
Okay. And I think it has a great many terrific benefits to it, especially for healing.
Mm-hmm. Wouldn't this be a very interesting book project to let more people around the world know about these kind of things, like what you told me about Hawaiian understanding of time and anniversaries and so on? That sounds so fascinating.
It's a lot of what my books have.
Okay. Oh, there's 7 islands, I guess, is Hawaii, but so much wisdom.
Yeah.
Is there some important advice or warnings you like to pass on to entrepreneurs who work in a spiritual or esoteric field?
Well, I wouldn't say any warning of any kind. No, of course not. The warning implies that there's something out there.
Mm-hmm.
There isn't. So again, I'm going to repeat what I've said before. Don't be afraid. Okay. If you're working in the spirit, like, for instance, like some of the things, and still happens, it's this idea that you're going to go astral travel and there's this cord that is somehow crazily attached to you, that if the cord is cut, you'll be lost out there forever. Total nonsense. Total nonsense. I've never seen such a cord, don't need it. And I've done a lot of astral travel.
I guess so.
So, it's the fear. And I can remember too, when I was studying of different ways of doing this, in this one study, where you had to, in your mind, you had to go into this special place and you had to go straight forward and make a left, and then you make a right, and then you could take off. What is that nonsense?
It sounds to me like an aircraft carrier.
You got to restrict it, you got to be really careful. Nonsense.
Okay, I see. Every several years, there seems to be a wave of a very new, seemingly, method which makes people able to control their life and bring them millions and millions of money without them doing much more.
Yeah, right. That doesn't work.
No, I tried the first 2 waves and then I skipped it.
People make a lot of money on that kind of stuff because,
yeah,
again, basing it on the fear and limitations and people wanting some magic way of instantly doing something that's easy and doesn't cost anything, doesn't take any time. Okay, well, sure, right. It's like so many people also want a big daddy of some kind to take care of them. We have to learn to cooperate and, as a group, take care of ourselves.
What is your opinion on contacting divine beings like angels or deities?
Nothing wrong with it.
Okay, so people might
do it. If that's
do
what you like, and if that's how you interpret your experience, sure, as long as it's helpful or useful or fun.
Is there a part of your work which you are most proud of, or consider most important?
Well, I can't say that. I'm happy about the books I've written, happy about the people I've helped, happy about the people I've learned from, the things I've done. But most important is living.
Yeah.
And like I said, helping people in some way. Because we have to do that if we really want to survive.
Yeah, I guess so. I'm very impressed of your YouTube channel. Boy,
good.
so many excellent videos.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Many people are putting out YouTube channels with giving some information and doing a lot of marketing, which is quite okay for me. But these videos, I've seen some of them and I'm impressed. They are really good, I guess.
That's right. And these are taken from lectures that I've given in the past.
Ah,
And I have a very strong feeling that I want them to be out there at no cost for everybody
yeah,
to access.
yeah. That's important. I guess many people will have good insights with this good education. In the last 3 years approximately, what did learn to say no made your life better? So where there's things you learned to say no to and got a better life?
Wow. I learned how to say no a long time ago. So I wouldn't just say it's in the past few years. Whenever there is something that I know I don't need or is not going to help me or help others,
Mhm.
I can very easily say no to it.
Okay.
That's a
And you learned this
long
early.
time practice.
Okay. Do you know when this was approximately in your life? Was a special event around that?
Looking back on my life, um, I'd have to say that I can't say the moment when I started, but I can tell you that the moment my life began to improve was the day I was married.
Ah, your wife again.
Yes. Now,
Great.
I did other things before we got married. For
Mhm.
instance, there was a time in my life when, after my father died, I was a lost soul.
Yeah.
And so I didn't know what to do. I was trying to put myself through college.
Mhm.
I was living on my own, um, starting when I was 17, and failed my first year of college fantastically. I
Mhm.
mean,
Mhm.
really bells and whistles and everything. And I was walking along in uh, the town of Pittsburgh where my mother was living. I was in
Mhm.
Detroit. So my
Mhm.
mother was in Pittsburgh and I went to visit. And I'm walking along the street. And in those days, the post office, US Post Office, used to have a window front right on the street.
Mhm.
Like you go by and passing a business. Well, the post office would be on the street and they would have these windows.
Mhm.
And in the window, this one time, there was a poster of Uncle Sam. You're familiar with that
Mhm. Yeah.
concept. And he was pointing. And it said, the Marine Corps builds men. And I said, that's what I need. So I joined the Marine Corps when I was 18. And uh, boy, did they help me. They did
Tough love.
exactly what I needed. And so I'd have to say that an awful lot of my self confidence came from that
Mhm.
experience.
Yeah.
In the time I was in, I managed to make sergeant, which gave me a lot of leadership training.
Yeah.
And it was one of the most important transitions of my life.
Mhm.
What I learned from that experience. Okay, so I'm very thankful for them to what they do. It was not easy,
No,
but boy, did I learn a lot, and it helped build me up mentally, physically, and emotionally,
I see.
so that I was ready for marriage.
Did your time in the Marine Corps contribute to your very practical approach to spiritual things?
No, I think that was part of my nature
Okay, okay,
already.
that's you.
Right.
I see. That always was fascinating for me. Yeah, so far I used up all my questions, which I set
Okay.
up, which is a pity because it's very much fun for me to listen to you. So thank you very much, Serge.
It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, for me too. And have a wonderful time and greetings to your wife. She must be a great person.
She really is. So, aloha to you.
Aloha. Bye bye.
Bye-bye.